Welcome to Propel Pittsburgh. Propel Pittsburgh is a series of TV shows that tells the stories of entrepreneurs and why they started their business and how they're helping the communities that their businesses are located. I'm the host, Susan Miller, and I'm excited to introduce another one of our guests and interview her. And her name is Christina Fontana. She is the owner of Dr. Christina Transformation Coaching. I've met you in circles and stuff, and I always say everybody's got a story. Everybody's got a story. It's putting the time in to get to know everyone's story. And so I knew of you, and we're kind of moving around in the same circles, but I never knew your story. And what got my attention was your very public post of a downtime for you, which I appreciate, and I thank you for that because all of us have been there at one time or another. I don't think people, uh, uh, admit to it enough. They need to. And I'm glad that you did admit to that because I think I want people to understand that we all go through that. We all have our down times. And when we do, it's okay to, lean on people, get some support, brush yourself off, and figure out how you can change things. Uh, so share if you can, because I'm sure everybody's wondering at this point now, what was that story that got Susan Miller's attention? But it was really a down moment for you, and we all have those moments. So could you share with us that story, because then that's going to lead into how you're helping people.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for having me on. I am honored to be amongst some of the amazing other people and women that you have had on the show. I've watched some of the other episodes. And so I just want to say thank you first and foremost. And yeah, I put that story out there to let people know that it's so common to see the highlight reel of what everyone's life looks like, because one of the main human fears is looking bad. So I purposely highlight that experience, and I'll go into what that story was, because I feel like so many women and so many people are out there right now in pain. They're in suffering and they don't know how to get out of it. So if I can shine a light on my story and show the transformation, then I believe that I can give someone hope. So that is a huge reason why I share my story. And so my story is that, when I was 23 years old, I was going through pharmacy school. My dad was a pharmacist. He owned a pharmacy in Long Island. You'll hear my accent come out. I live in Pittsburgh now, but I was originally from Long Island. And he wanted me to stay at his pharmacy because the old Italian way is that you take after, the fathers or the parents, whatever they have, a store, a deli, whatever it is. And so my dad wanted me to take over his store. And something inside of me just really knew that there was more that I wanted to accomplish in my life. And so at 23 years old, I went and applied for a pharmacy residency. So pharmacy school is 6 years, and then you have an opportunity to go for a residency, which is another year of schooling. But it's more in a practical setting where you can go into a hospital or a retail pharmacy in different settings where you can learn more professionally and personally and really develop your skill set as a leader. So I wanted to do that. I wanted to, I knew that it paid less. I wanted the experience. I knew that there was something more that I was meant to be doing with everything inside of me. I knew that there was at that time, I didn't know it was called blocks, but I knew that there was something inside of me that was not being fully expressed. So I went ahead and did it anyway. And I got a lot of criticism and emotional abuse, and from my entire family, from people close to me. And it was really tough at that time. So that was 2012. So this is fast forward, 9 years later, here I am. But it was not easy because once I got that residency, and I had actually been denied from my top 5 choices. I got rejected from all of them. I finally got a residency and I got kicked out of my house. So I woke up, I was sleeping at a friend's house the night before this happened, and I woke up to a text from my mom, and she said, "You better come get all of your stuff because it's on the lawn." So
Mm-hmm.
I'm panicking, and I go to my house, I drive to my house, and my clothes are just scattered all over the lawn. And my mom smashes a picture of my father and I, like there I had a picture on my nightstand, and it was him and me as a child. And she's like, "This means nothing. You're betraying us." They were so angry and rageful.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had this level of peace that I couldn't explain. Like something just divine came over me, and I knew that I was going to be okay, even
Mm-hmm.
though all of this chaos was happening around me. And the way that I describe it is that it's almost like your entire life is being burned down in front of you, and everything is clear for you to begin a totally new life. So I got fired from my job that day. I had no place to live. I was living out of my car, and that's the picture that you saw on Facebook. And I was really at my rock bottom because not only was that happening, I also had an eating disorder, a rare eating disorder called night eating syndrome. I had anxiety, depression, all of these things that had built up because I was suppressing who I was.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the story of where I started back in 2012. Just
That's
kind
a
of
lot of
a
stress.
little bit.
That's a lot to go through, as a young woman. A lot of stress there. Something that a lot of people probably can relate to. I love that you brought that out because I think all of us have, there are a lot of people that deal with that level of stress. And I love how you help them work through that. But, importantly, going against, your family and then having to deal with the repercussions of them wanting you to do what they wanted, but
Yeah.
you had the courage to really follow what you wanted to do. So I applaud you on that too. That's awesome.
Thank
And
you.
I think it's I think that many times we all go through that. We just don't know what our purpose is. So it seems like you are at that point and you really bear down to continue your journey. So that's awesome. So you at that point, what did you decide to do at that point?
Yeah. So I stayed just kind of in survival mode at that point. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that too, where you're just, your head's down, you have to do what you have to do. Maybe you have to take care of your kids, or you have to go to work and make money to survive. That's where I was in my mind. I'm like, okay, I need a job. I need to get an apartment. I need XYZ. So all of those practical things kind of took the priority over my emotional state. But I was it was traumatic. It was a traumatizing event. And as I went and did my residency and I wound up, getting an apartment and all of that, it took about 2 weeks for all of that to fall into place. I realized that there was all of that emotional pain still buried that I wasn't dealing with. And it would come out through my daily interactions with people. I would get triggered very easily. I was irritable. I wasn't really talking to my family. So there was just a lot of that deep pain that was not being dealt with. And so the eating disorder continued and the anxiety continued. And, it wasn't until I attended a seminar back in 2014 that it was a coaching seminar in New York City. And the coach called me to the front of the room to get some coaching around what had happened, because at that point I was abusing my body with, my eating disorder. I was attracting narcissistic men who doubted my intelligence, who, were pretty much abusive mentally to me. And I knew that there was something inside that I needed to heal. I just didn't know how. I didn't know where to
Mhm.
start or what to do. So I went to this seminar, and the coach called me up to the front of the room and he said, what's happening with you? And I said, I'm having all these problems. And he's like, okay, what happened? So I went back to that scene that I just described to you. And I said, this is what happened. And he's like, okay, have you forgiven your parents? I said, you know, yes, I had done some work around that. And he said, have you forgiven yourself? And I was just stunned because I didn't. I had not forgiven myself, and I was carrying around this guilt, which is one of the lowest frequencies that the human body can hold energetically. Shame and guilt are one of the lowest frequencies. So I was carrying all of that around and attracting all of these negative things because I had not healed that wound. And I hadn't healed from the previous things that had gone on in my life, a lot of trauma and just negative programming of who I was and how I was too sensitive. And I was labeled with all of these things. So going through that experience and having that big breakthrough at that seminar was kind of the propelling force that led me down this road of true healing, to take accountability for my life, to stop being a victim. Because before then I had been bullied all my life. You know, I had a negative self-image, I had eating disorders, there was all of that. That was really the point where I started to take ownership for my life, and it truly helped me heal. And now that is part of what I help other women to do on a bigger scale, now that I have been through that, and I can show them how to do that as well.
And those are some great points too, because that ownership is usually the first key to peace.
Yeah.
And I love it when people get to that point where they take ownership, because then the peace just sets in. And you know, I can see that within you, and knowing that you're able to bring that to people is very powerful. So I love that you even brought up some of those points, because that's some of the things we work with She Deserves. And that's one of the ways we connected, was through She Deserves, is that our first step is always healing, because I can't take them further until they take that first step in healing. So,
right.
Which then leads into your business. You now formed a business where you are helping people heal, change their mindset, and you even add a spiritual aspect to it to help them navigate through all this.
Absolutely.
So, and it seems like you work with a lot of entrepreneurs. That's mostly most of your clients, correct?
Right. So, excuse me, I would say about 85 to 90% of my clients naturally come to me because I am a pharmacist who has grown her own business. And my magic and the way that I work with women is I can almost intuit. One of my biggest gifts is my intuition. So I can almost intuitively pick up on the patterns, the blocks, the thoughts, the things that are stopping them from truly owning their brilliance, because I know what that's like. And that's where I was at that beginning of that journey, where I was small. I wasn't owning my voice. I wasn't speaking my truth. I had been suppressed for so many years of my life that it was just a pattern. It was a habit of how I showed up to life. I was a people pleaser. I was a perfectionist. I had control issues. There was all sorts of, anxiety and things that came up to the surface because I had been running these thoughts and beliefs for so long. So that's the way that I see things, and healing is energetically, things don't just pop out of thin air. Eating disorders and all of these things that people are challenged with, they're a result of these micro traumas and beliefs and programming and the way that we've been shaped. So the way that you deconstruct that is by looking at your beliefs, is by digesting trauma and allowing yourself to go back and feel into those feelings to release it. So I do a lot of releasing work with people around helping them to kind of dive into, what are the stories you're telling yourself? What are the beliefs you have about yourself? And there's a lot of different ways to do that. And I do a lot of like physicality work too, where I help them move the energy out of their body through dance or movement. So there's a lot of I guess the word is unconventional ways that I work with people, but ultimately to me, it's helping you raise your state, raise your energy. So you're experiencing more of a life that is aligned with your truth and your heart and your soul. And when people go through this transformation work, they naturally are guided to what they're meant to be doing in the world. So a lot of them, the women that I work with, maybe they go on to write a book, or they grow a business, or they create a nonprofit because they're not playing small anymore. They're truly owning their brilliance. They're owning the gifts that God gave them to carry out in the world, to be in service to other people.
And you really hit some valid points there, going back to ownership again, just taking ownership of who we are. And, I was talking to someone today about the goods and the bads. We all have the goods and the bads. We all have the strengths and the weaknesses, and taking ownership of all of that. And it's okay to have those weak moments and the strong points and so I love that you brought that up. And you also help them identify that where they're at with those blocks could be caused by some things around them, and that you help them identify with that. So that's amazing in itself. And there's a lot of coaching out there, but I think you take it one step further, especially for the ones that are experiencing those blocks, and there's a lot of them. So I'm glad you brought those points out. Now, I know you just recently wrote a book too. So tell us about this book that you just wrote.
Here's my little book.
It's a big
Well, it's
book.
not so little, it's actually pretty big. It's bigger than my other books. But yes, so this one is called Embracing Your Light as a Highly Sensitive Person. So to me, a highly sensitive person, it doesn't, usually there's a negative connotation around like being too sensitive. I know I was labeled as that for a long time, but I see it as a highly sensitive person picks up on everything around them. They feel things on a deeper level. They can pick up on the emotions of the people around them. And when you use that in a way that is focused and that where you can still protect your energy and have boundaries, it's not overwhelming. Because think about it, if you're just open and you're feeling everybody's energy, it can be very draining. It can be very overwhelming. So I put tools in this book to help you to set healthy boundaries, to protect your energy so that you're not feeling so overwhelmed. I almost see it as like, like Swiss cheese, like it's kind of like a semi-permeable membrane where like you're letting some stuff in, but you're not letting it all in.
I like that analogy.
Yeah. So it's kind of a good visual for, having boundaries, but still letting people in, because you want to have an open heart. You want to be connecting with people. You don't want to be totally shut off, but you also don't want to be absorbing all this stuff. So it's called Embracing Your Light, because that is essentially the journey that I take women through, helping them to release these blocks, these limitations, so that they can own why they came here. And another part of my intuitive ability is being able to see somebody's gifts, somebody's brilliance, just by talking to them. I can hear, because when someone speaks, when they say what they're passionate about, I can kind of see it from a bird's eye view and help them to kind of expand their vision even more than maybe what they're working at now. Because think about it this way, if you're seeing yourself in this limited capacity and you're like, oh, I don't really know what kind of gifts I have, or, what I could possibly contribute to the world, then your impact is going to be smaller than if you were to own your confidence, own your light, see everything in your past as a gift. Because I truly believe that was a gift, what happened to me. God came into my life and said, this needs to be cleared out. And that led me down this journey, and I wouldn't give that back for anything. So it's about seeing the gifts. And that's why it's, the second part of it is a guide to developing your empathic gifts, because not only do you have soul gifts, but you have experiences that you can use in service to other people through whatever medium. It doesn't have to be a business. It could be a book. It could be, speaking. It could be volunteering at your local Meals on Wheels, whatever it is. Everywhere you go, you show your light. You're putting your energy out there. You're doing it here, right? You're putting this TV show out there. Everybody is using their light in different ways. So how can you hone that even more to expand how many people you can impact? That's really what it's about.
I think if more people learn how to do that, we can help more people, because everybody has different energies too. Not everybody's going to be drawn to the energy or the light that you're putting out. So, I think I love how you brought that out, because, I tell some of our ladies that, find your light, take ownership of that light. And if not everybody likes that light, it's okay. there are going to be some people that really love that light and be drawn to it. So I'm glad you pointed that out.
Yeah.
So that book there is to help people understand the pros to being sensitive.
Right.
So what else do you hope that they get from the book?
So my hope is that they really come to embrace, right? That's in the first part of the title, is really embracing all of who you are. So you talked about before, like the strengths, the weaknesses, the things that we want to keep hidden, the shame, the things that we're like, oh, I can never tell anybody that because I'm so ashamed about it. That is what needs to be brought to the light to be healed and transmuted, because that is what's going to give you that energy to raise your vibration, raise your energy to make an impact on more people. And the more that you can integrate those shameful parts that ultimately get transmuted to maybe innocence, or a gift or something that you can then use in your business or use with however you're shining your light out in the world, that is going to make a bigger impact,
Hmm.
because you're going to show up with confidence. You're not going to be like
Right.
subconsciously trying to hide all of these things in the background that you're ashamed of. You're going to be reconciled with that, and you're going to have all of that energy to put out into the world.
And that's great too, that, take, identifying all those things that we all experience in our life is what makes us who we are and how
Yeah,
wonderful we are because of what we've gone through, just like what you've gone through. So
exactly. And
now
I,
I know this is one of several books too that you have written. And so just give us a brief highlight, some of the other books that you have, and the direction or the ways that they help people. I'm sure they
yeah,
all have a different direction.
yeah. So the first one I actually wrote in Bali. I went on a 30-day writer's retreat, which was really
Wow.
cool. And I learned from all of these amazing writing coaches. And that was really where I got the foundation for how to write a book, because I had obviously never done it before. So I went and just immersed myself, and I wrote that book in 14 days, because I was just, when I have something in my mind that I want to do, it gets done. I'm like, this is happening. Just claim it. So that one was really about my story. So that story that I told you earlier on in the segment was what I brought to light, and all of those different experiences that had resulted in me having all of these problems and all of these challenges, and then going into healing and helping people through different exercises. That's kind of, so all of my books are prescriptive nonfiction. That's technically what the terminology is for it, because it's nonfiction because I tell my story, but then it's prescriptive in the way that I always give journal prompts. I always give action steps so that you can integrate the learning and the teaching into your own life. So that's the format for all of my books. So that was the first one. The second one was about reclaiming your power. So all of them are spiritual. This one was about kind of coming home to yourself and being connected to God. It was more of like a religious, spiritual book, to really help you come home to yourself. The third one was called Lighten Up, that I wrote in 2018. And that one was kind of a mixture of like energetically feeling lighter with some of the things that we talked about before through forgiveness and some other techniques, but also food has energy. So, how do you start to eat lighter foods? So, for example, like dairy and meat are very energetically dense foods. How can you start to eat lighter and to feel better and have more energy? So that's kind of the trajectory of that one. But all of them are really geared to help people to heal, transform, release different aspects of maybe what's holding them back, so that they can elevate to that person that lives a joyful life, that is on fire about their purpose. That is my goal for anything that I do, whether it's a book or a YouTube video or a retreat or anything.
If someone is feeling what you're saying right now
Yep.
and understanding, the blocks, the healing, the changing of the mindset, if you were to help them change that, give a brief overview of how that would make a difference in their life,
Yeah.
maybe how they would feel, how things would be, how that could have an impact on their business. Just give them a little overview of what they could experience. Uh,
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's so different for every person, but what I would say is I have a VIP session where we just really map out the vision for what they want. So if they're wanting to feel a sense of purpose, they want to feel more confident, they want to release the fear of being seen and showing up fully in their business. We work through that and really paint the picture of what it is that you actually want. And then we look at some of those blocks. So, are you being held back by self doubt, by fear, by the fear of judgment? Are you judging yourself because of past things that have happened? So, that all just naturally comes up throughout these sessions. So, I have a structure for what I do, but it's also highly intuitive for me because I tune into that person and
mhm,
I almost can see and feel and hear through their words because again your voice is sound is a vibration, so I can feel into that, which is one of my gifts, and I can help them through all of these different transformation tools that I've cultivated, that I've created, a lot of those unconventional things that are actually, I think, a lot of fun to just
mhm,
move your energy and to get your get your body to release some of these things, to get your mind on board with not being in this survival mode but actually calming your mind. And some of that is in this book too, of really helping to decrease an overstimulated nervous system, because when
mhm.
your body's in this high fight or flight state, you can't heal because your body's not relaxed. Your body will heal when you are in a relaxed state. So I help them through getting into that relaxed state through creating new habits, gradually. Maybe it's meditation, doing a daily meditation, or doing affirmations, different mindset strategies that are going to help them to embody the type of person that we mapped out in that VIP session. So if they're wanting to be confident, okay, what beliefs would you need to have to be confident? How would you need to hold your body? How would you need to be speaking? So we move through all of those things and I help them gradually to reach that goal. And most of the time, it's even more expansive than the VIP session and what we mapped out. So it's really helping to liberate all of these things that are weighing them down so that they can elevate to that next level, whatever that is for them.
That's great. And I'm sure the end result is clarity, um, more energy, more motivation,
Freedom. Yeah.
freedom, peace. So, and I think everybody needs that balance. So I'm glad you're out there, and that's how you're helping the people within the community. And in our last few minutes here, tell them the name of your website and how they can get hold of you. What's the best way to get hold of you? Is it through your website or?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can reach out to me, yes, absolutely, through my website. So it's pharmacistcoach.com, very easy. And you can reach out to me on my Facebook page, Dr. Christina Transformation Coaching. I'm also on Instagram as the pharmacist coach. So whichever way, I am open to supporting and speaking to, anybody that has questions, or if anything that you need help with, I'm here and willing to be of service. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us and telling us more about what you do and how you're helping others within our community. You're a blessing within the community, and I'm glad I had the opportunity to interview you.
Thank you so much. It's been so much fun.
Thank you.